Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever or whenever you might be listening to this very special podcast from. My name is Arise Michael Godfrey, and I am your friend. I want to welcome you very, very specially to this very beautiful podcast once more, live in the university. How have you been? It's been a 1 month break, all right, and I'm very sure you've been able to catch up with our previous podcast. If you haven't, come on now, you don't want to waste much time. Go back to YouTube, go back to Spotify, AudioMac, and you definitely have a repeat of all our previous podcasts. Well, for the last 2 months now, we've been on a series, all right, titled Life in University is a Gift, all right, and I did outline the four priceless gifts the university life gives to every student, all right. So, firstly, we considered the gift of solving problems and creating solutions. All right, that's the very first gift university life, would give to any and every student. All right, once you come into university space, it opens your eyes to identify problems. All right, and begin to think about solutions. And of course, I shared my heart extensively with regards to the gift of solving problems and creating solutions. And maybe I should mention to you, here over here, I run a club, a weekly club meeting called Life University, all right. And of course, our vision is to help. The same vision we share here on the podcast is the same we share in our physical meeting to help students live effectively. So, in one of our meetings where I shared on the gift of solving problems and creating solutions, we broke into sections, all right, broke into smaller group, and each one group was tasked with identifying a problem, all right, that is generally facing students and their academic performance and their effectiveness, and begin to brainstorm on solution. I kid you not, the last time I inquired about the progress of you know um their project, all right, in regards to solving that very problem, it was really mind-blowing. So we had three groups. One of the groups focused on solving the problem of attendance. Some of them said, after classes, it's usually very difficult for the lecturer to take attendance. We have to wait and wait and wait. I say, well, that's a very, very good problem. Let's solve that. So as I speak to you, they're currently working on, an e-attendance system, all right, an e-attendance system where, you don't have to call out the names of the students. All you need to do is just put out a link, and students who are present for that very class in less than 60 seconds we sign up, all right. The link cannot be shared, right. We sign up and take the attendance for that very class, and just so beautiful, right. The other project was focused on improving the network range, or the strength of the network within the campus system. One of the students identified that when you are inside of the campus, all right, I mean Natural State University, the network is usually very bad, all right, usually very bad. And of course, sometimes you can browse, you can make calls, and the rest of that. And somebody said, we're going to create a network bank, right? We want to create a network bank, you can now leverage on, right? When you have, how we have a power bank system, right? Where you can charge up your power bank system. And of course, that power bank can be used when your cell phone battery, gradually drains. All right. So somebody said, we're going to work on a network bank. So you have a network bank when you come into school. All you need to do is to connect to your network bank, and you won't be affected with the fluctuating network on campus. And I said, wow, that's so beautiful. And the third group discovered that generally in campus, right, outside of the campus now, students are faced with high cost of accommodation. And somebody said that's a huge problem because, of course, while you're trying to settle your bills with accommodation, you might be distracted academically. So now, as I speak with you, there's a project going on to see how we can resolve the hike in prices. Free amazing project, and this is just so beautiful, right? This is just trying to help you understand that whatever we do in life university, it's usually very impactful, all right. And now, by extension, this is a reminder to help you understand that life university is a gift, a beautiful gift. All right. And it's my earnest expectation that while we go through all of these podcasts, from one series to the next series and the other series and the next series, you were able to understand these four priceless gifts and begin to maximize each one of them. All right. Secondly, I shared about the gift of friendship and relationship. All right, how that the best version of yourself will always be found in someone else who is ready to support you financially, support you academically, support you spiritually, and the rest of that, while you go through life in university. All right. Thirdly, I shared a little about the gift of exposure. How that we have, two kind of exposure. We have the positive exposure, all right, and we have the negative exposure. I want to get back to the gift of exposure as soon as we're done with the gift of discipline, all right, in the coming weeks. And lastly, all right, I begin to talk about the gift of discipline. All right, so now last month I introduced the gift of discipline, and I did mention that the gift of discipline is actually the fourth gift, Life University gift to every student. All right. And I started by introducing us to the general concept of, discipline from different professionals in different walks of life. All right. And, we tried to examine, what the concept of discipline in its literal application means, or, means to each one of this very profession. And now what you can see on your screen is just a breakdown, all right, of each one of this profession. What does discipline means to a medical practitioner? What does discipline means to a military personnel? What does discipline means to a pilot? I can assure you that for each one of this profession, the concept of discipline in its literal application differs. All right. For example, for the medical practitioner, of which includes, surgeons and the rest of, that very order. It means studying all the possible outcome of a surgical process, all right, before, during, and after the surgery process, whether it is successful or unsuccessful. Now, this is a huge deal of commitment. All right. It begins by, this medical team of medical staff or medical practitioners, of which includes surgeons, all right, they begin to study right before they go into, the surgical room. They begin to study, the outcome. What is likely going to be the outcome? What are the possible outcomes? All right, with regards to this surgical operation, are there something we need to study? Can we study the trend? Can we study the pattern with regards to this very patient? Can we look at the medical records? All right, if we do something wrong at the point of this surgical operation, what will happen to the life of the patient? So they try to study all of these, all right. And of course, if you've seen, American movies around, the medical world, you would deeply appreciate this. So now, just right before the surgical process, there's this team meeting within staff, all right, or within the members of, that surgical team, all right, studying every single angle. Most times it's very exhausting. It can last for more than 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours, 10 hours. And guess what? The surgical process has not begun. Now, during the surgical process, of course, it will take some time. Usually, sometimes it takes more than 30, 20, 10 hours. All depends on the complexity of, the case they might be handling at that very time. Now, they are all expected to wait during this very process. And now, afterwards, after the surgical process, they have to still go back to the report, examine what were their assumptions, all right, as against the reality of the day, all right. And now this shows you the heart of commitment, the heart of discipline they have to imbibe in what they do. Let's take a look at another profession, one that is also very, very interesting to study, the military personnel. When I look about the military personnel, I usually have a picture in mind. Some time ago, I was traveling to, regularize my jam admission, right? And while I was going through the jam office, I had an experience that would always stick to my mind. All right. I mean that experience live off the top of my head rent free. I can assure you. What happened that very day really was really mind blowing, and I don't really want to forget that. And because I'm sharing about the discipline of the military personnel, I think it's also very beautiful. I achieved this in. So that very day, while I was going down to the jam office, right on transit, I took note of some military personnel at at a checkpoint, it was really under a very hot sun, right? I mean, it was really a sunny day. The sun was really, really hot, right? I sitting inside of the car could already tell, how hot the weather could be. But guess what? Those military personnel were right at the checkpoint, ensuring that nobody with harmful weapon or any ulterior motive moves past the checkpoint into the very city. And they conducted a check for hours upon hours upon hours. Now, guess what? While I was done with whatever, took me down to JAM office, I was going to return back to, my residence while it began to rain. All right, and it rained so heavily. But guess what? While I was yet inside of the cab going down, all right, or returning back, guess who I still found at the checkpoint? I found a group of military personnel, all right? They were right under the rain. So while it was raining, they were right there still conducting their search. While it was so sunny, they were right under the scorching sun conducting their check. And now this reminds me of the form or the level of discipline these guys have to go through. All right. So for the military personnel, discipline is going through a rigorous process of training. All right. Only to put away their comfort for a lifetime in order to make people feel comfortable in their homes. I can assure you that having gone through those vigorous training, they don't really get to benefit from the training as per se. I mean, direct benefit. You know who get to benefit from this training? It's you and I. Because while they are at the checkpoints, all right, they are maintaining law and orders, all right, ensuring that nobody goes past the law or boycott any of those process or procedures or rules or regulation that's been laid down by the federal government of Nigeria. And now this is so beautiful. All right. Now, discipline for a military personnel, you now understand they stand under the scorching sun, they are there, under the rain, they are there. Kind of reminds me about the NYC anthem we used to sing then, right? We used to sing right there in the camp. I cannot remember that. Can I remember? Oh, who can I call to remind me now? It's I'm having the lines in my head, but it's so difficult to sing now. Okay, in the rain and in the sun, something like that. All right, under the rain and under the sun. You understand? Just gives you an idea of the discipline. Even core members have to imbibe. All right, of course, this is not as tedious as the military personnel. Now, how about pilots? Think for a moment. Pilots, the discipline the pilot has to go through is to maintain 110% focus while on flight. And that means he has to stay awake while other passengers or other cabin crew members might be sleeping. The pilot stays awake, ensuring that he navigates carefully, all right, and accurately through all of the storms and the turbulence he might face, all right, while the flight goes on, right, ensures he controls all of that just to ensure that at the end of the day he's able to land the plane successfully. Now that takes a whole lot of discipline. Now, as unique as this profession and their literal application of discipline might sound, I did also mention to you last time that as students we also do have our concept and what we feel discipline means. And I just want to share with you. I know I've shared this with you some other time, but let me just remind you very quickly. All right. So, what does discipline mean to our students? Do we have the right word to really define what discipline means? In the words of a student, from the perspective of a student, can we tell what discipline really means? All right. And of course, if you can look carefully on your screen there, you understand I have put together a very beautiful, concise definition with regards to what discipline means to every student, especially within the four walls of the classroom, by extension, the campus environment. All right. So for a student, discipline is the consistent and intentional practice of behaviors and habits that support their academic success, all right, personal growth, and overall well being. For a student, it is the consistent and intentional practice of behaviors and habits. Very interesting. The consistent and yet intentional practice of behaviors and habits. It then means that discipline, in the words of a student, is that intentional everyday action you get to take, all right, that modifies your behavior as well as your habits. It talks about the habit you have to practice daily, all right, the behaviors you have to imbibe or you have to, showcase daily, all right, that will do three things basically to the students. Firstly, support their academic success, all right, goes on to support their personal growth and by extension, their overall well being. Now, this is so beautiful, all right. I go further by telling you that it's all about making conscious decisions, conscious choices. I beg your pardon. It's all about making conscious choices, even when they are challenging, or even when they are challenging to align with your goals and value. It then means discipline is not a given. All right. It's not something, it's not a gift. Of course, I know we're talking about the gift of discipline, but it's a gift that must be imbibed, that must be developed, cultured over time. It's not something you just wake up with and say, oh, I got a gift of discipline. Oh, I know what to do part time. I take the right choices. It won't always be like that, especially with regards to the ever-changing environment you have in the campus. All right. So, but this helps you give you balance that discipline is all about making conscious decisions. All right. Even when they seem to be challenging to align with your goals and values. All right. This includes managing your time effectively, prioritizing tasks, maintaining focus, respecting yourself and others, and persevering, through obstacles. Now, this is so beautiful. Let me use time management for example. You know what discipline or the gift of discipline will do for a student? Now, you have two choices. All right. Early in the morning, you have two choices. You either focus on your, on priorities that will contribute the best to your academic performance, or you go on to do activities that will contribute the least to your academic performance. Whichever you choose, there's a consequence. If you go on to choose, tasks or activities that will contribute significantly to your academic performance, all right, you begin to achieve or you begin to experience an improvement in your academic work. All right. But if you always go for priorities that would not contribute so well to your academic performance, of course, there's a consequence. You begin to experience average grades or inconsistency with your grades and your performance. Always a consequence. Now, in today's section, very quickly, I want to build on this definition by giving you one area where a student must exercise discipline. All right. Remember, I've told you it's an intentional practice of behaviors and habits that will support academic success, personal growth, and well being. Now, I want to build on that very definition. I know of one area that can help you as a student achieve excellent academic performance. I know of one area where if you exert discipline on, you should live an effective life on campus. All right. You should develop personally. All right. And of course, if you exert this discipline or this one form or one area of discipline I'm going to be teaching you about, all right, you should have, an excellent life in whatever area or whatever field you might find yourself. All right. So that one area where discipline is necessary is in studying. So I want to help you develop the discipline of studying in a very few minutes. But before then, I think I should share with you a few thoughts about the discipline of study. All right, let me share with you a very few thoughts about the discipline of study. And the first thought I have to share with you is that studying with regards to discipline is not always convenient. I wish I can lie to you and tell you whenever you wish to study is going to always be convenient for you. No, it's not always going to be convenient. I can assure you. I found out that other activity aside studying might be more fun and interesting. It's easy to do other activity perform other tasks, all right, than studying. I mean, imagine with me for a moment. It's late in the evening, all right? You're back from maybe school, right? You're done eating, you're done refreshing, all right? Maybe you've even had your siesta, and all of that. And now it's evening. And I give you two options. Pick up your book, either your academic book or any live book. Pick up a book and study for 2 hours or see a movie. Do you know that without too much thought, you would by reflex pick the movie? And somebody is saying, no, 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 I think I'm going to study. Hey, listen, I know you might be able to study if you've developed the discipline or the culture of discipline within yourself. But naturally, as humans, you know what we'll do? We will go for a movie, because now I'm using a movie in this case. A movie might not, you might not be a movie freak, so a movie might not be your thing. All right, I might just say go for a visit, see some friends, all right, surf the internet, in that context versus studying. I'm sure that there's every likelihood for you to snub studying or neglect studying and pick that very option. Why? It's just a human nature for us to focus on taxes that won't contribute so well to our general performance. All right, we tend to neglect activities that will make us more efficient, right, at the expense of our time. All right, so you might just find a student saying, I beg, let me watch the movie, Jerry. I've been in class all day. Let me, somebody needs to rest though. Read, 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 read. Oh, Jack, in fact, maybe you've heard that all work and no play make Jack a dull boy. Do you understand? So I'm sure you're going to pick a movie. Now, and there's something I've also noticed with regards to this very point. Students has a delusional idea about the right timing to study. Now, I understand with regards to, timing, I can understand certain students who want to study early in the morning, at noon, or evening, whichever works for them, all right, where their brain is best settled. But aside that categorization, all right, or aside that, timing of the day, students has this delusional idea of it's not the right time to study, right? So in our mind, we are always waiting for that right time. We are always holding on to wait for that right time. Oh, when are you going to study? Timetable is not out now. We'll study, now, we'll study. So in our head, we're always waiting for a most convenient time. But I'm very sure, I'm very happy to announce to you today that you will never have the right time to study. You have to deliberately, you know, pick up your study materials and study. If you have to wait to study, if you have to wait for the right time, I can assure you, you never have a right time. Because guess what? The activity on campus will never take a break for you to find yourself. It's either you're finding yourself and you're balancing every other thing, all right, and ensuring that study always is top of your priority, or you swing along with the overwhelming crowd doing other activities that doesn't contribute to the academic performance, holding on and waiting for the right timing. So the first thought I want to share with you is that studying is not always convenient. There's never a right time. You should study as much as you can. All right, and let me share with you the second thought. All right, studying is stressful without, all right, no, studying is your job description as a student. All right, studying is your job description as a student. Now, every profession has a description, and that description I have observed comes with a responsibility. All right, for example, think about the pilot I've just given you, an illustration about. All right, from the description, you can already tell the responsibility of a pilot. Very simple: fly people from one place to another, land safely. That's that description. Do you understand? And that's their responsibility. For military personnel, ensure orders are kept, ensure lives are protected, all right, and ensure properties are always safe. That description already tells you their responsibility. They are armed, and they are not just armed because they want to be armed. They are armed because they have a responsibility to ensure that rules and regulation are maintained. All right, they have a responsibility to ensure they are able to waive off, either any external, external forces that might want to penetrate into that very city or into that very country. All right. Now, in that same vein, what do you think will be the description or responsibility of a student? Just think for 30 seconds. I'm sure you're done thinking. I don't want to even give you 30 seconds. It's very clear. I'm totally convinced that as a student, your description and your responsibility is to study. Among the other things you might find yourself doing on campus, studying is your most definite priority. It's your topmost priority on campus. In fact, I feel that whenever you don't study in a day, all right, or whenever you miss studying a day, or maybe you miss studying a week, you will not qualify to be called a student for that period of time you've missed studying. Yes, of course. Look at the word carefully. Student, studying. You can already tell that those two words are linked. In fact, I'm so sure that the word studying, all right, or the word study is a derivative of the word student, all right. So as a student, you have a calling to study, all right. So when you study, you are in other words ensuring that your responsibility is not neglected, all right. And when you study, great things happens when you study. And maybe from next week, I'm going to help you balance studying academic books and studying life books that will generally, influence your life. Then thirdly, I believe studying, one way we can develop, the discipline of studying, or one way I'm so sure we've not been able to develop the discipline of studying, it's because we study without a schedule. And now studying is stressful without a schedule. All right. It can be very stressful and it can be very boring. Now, this is because we try to do it without a plan. So you don't have a plan for studying. All right. You don't have a schedule. You don't have a system for studying. You know what will happen? You will just aimlessly study. All right. So you just aimlessly find a book, find a topic. There's no direction. All right. No direction. There's no planning, no evaluation for what you've studied, no perception, no precision. You just doing it. All right. No timing, no duration. You're just doing it. And you find yourself studying one course repeatedly over a period of time at the expense of other courses. You find yourself studying one of your favorite courses at the expense of other courses. That is already tell you that studying without a schedule can be very, very time consuming, very stressful, and very, very boring. All right. So creating a system or creating a schedule, all right, for studying makes studying very fun, makes studying very interesting. In fact, when I discovered this very, this very idea, and I started working towards it, my study life became so beautiful. I couldn't just wait to go back to the library. I couldn't just wait to pick up a book and just make some very beautiful research. Why? I now have a plan. I have a system, I have a structure in place. And that very system, that very plan, that very structure ensures study is fun and interesting. So one of the good ways you can, create a study, and of course, you know what it can also do for you? It ensures consistency. All right. Studying with a structure, studying with a plan, studying with a system ensures consistency. It ensures, it always ensure you don't go a day without studying. And that's so beautiful. And the compound effect of studying over a period of time. My God, you used to be so, so, so transformed. All right. You begin to see things with different perspective or from a different perspective. All right. So having a study timetable is always a good way you can plan and make your study very interesting. Now talking about a study timetable, I think at the end of this very section, or probably at the end of today's video, I am going to drop you a link. All right. All you need to do when you click on that very link, it will take you to a Google form where not a Google form, a Google Drive where you can download a free template that would help your personal study. All right. Next week, I want to take some time to help you create a study plan, of course, and also, of course, create other systems that can help you develop the required discipline for consistent study. Try not to miss next week's section. I can assure you it's going to be very, very, very amazing. I can't wait to receive you in the next section. All right. And until next time, my name is Arise Michael Godfrey, and I am your friend. I'm sure you could have questions around the previous section or probably today's section. You can reach me on WhatsApp 070 All right, 070 All right, the dialing code is +234. That's my WhatsApp line. All right, or you can write to me via mail at arisegodfrey@gmail.com. Arisegodfrey@gmail.com. You can also catch a repeat of this podcast on Spotify, um, AudioMark, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. Telegram channel also all inclusive, and you have a very beautiful time listening at your own pace. I want to say a very big thank you. Thank you for staying put, and see you next week, Saturday. Until then, stay out of trouble and live your best life on campus.